beneath the blistering heat of the Giza Plateau, past the endless stream of tourists and centuries of excavation, something may have stirred. In March 2025, a team of researchers claimed to have uncovered what could be one of the most significant archaeological discoveries in modern history: an entire underground complex hidden beneath Egypt's pyramids. Using radar technology, the team described vast chambers, spiraling staircases, long corridors, even what they believed to be an ancient water system, buried deep beneath the very stones that have stood for over 4,000 years. It's a claim that has reignited a firestorm of speculation. Could this be the long-rumored Hall of Records? The mythical library said to be sealed beneath the sands since the fall of Atlantis, housing the Lost World. The research team, led by Professor Corrado Malanga, used ground-penetrating radar to scan beneath the plateau, revealing what they interpret as organized structural patterns: columns, rooms, interlinked corridors. But the excitement was quickly met with skepticism. Prominent Egyptologists, including Dr. Zahi Hawass, dismissed the findings as unscientific, even dangerous. The study has not been peer-reviewed. The visuals presented to the public were AI-generated mock-ups, and Malanga himself is no stranger to controversy, having made past claims involving alien abductions and fringe science. So, what are we really looking at here? Is this genuine evidence of a vast, forgotten network beneath one of the most studied archaeological sites on Earth? Or simply the latest in a long line of misinterpretations and myth-chasing? Let's take a closer look. In the ever-shifting sands at the base of the Great Pyramids of Giza, one of the most extraordinary claims in recent archaeological history began, not with a shovel or a dig, but with a scan. A team of international researchers, led by Professor Corrado Malanga of the University of Pisa and Filippo Biondi of the University of Strathclyde in Scotland, set out to investigate a possibility that had lingered on the fringe of mainstream history for decades: that beneath the world's most iconic monuments, there might exist something hidden, something vast, deliberate, and long forgotten. Their mission was rooted in technology, not myth. Rather than rely on excavation, they employed synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, a cutting-edge imaging technique capable of penetrating the Earth's surface and reflecting back data from the structures buried beneath. SAR is often used in geological surveys and even planetary exploration. Its ability to detect subsurface formations from a distance makes it one of the most advanced tools in modern science. Now, it was being turned on one of the oldest and most enigmatic sites on the planet. The team's goal was simple in theory, yet monumental in scope: to map the subsurface beneath the Giza Plateau and see if the Earth itself was keeping secrets no eye had yet seen. And almost immediately, the scans began returning anomalies. At first, the data resembled what many radar scans tend to show: irregular shapes, density changes, a few possible voids. But then came the patterns: linear alignments, symmetrical angles, and then something more: 8 enormous vertical shafts, each descending far deeper than any known chamber on the plateau. According to the data, these cylindrical shafts extended downwards for over 2,100 feet, nearly twice the height of the Eiffel Tower. Their scale was staggering, but it wasn't just the depth, it was the uniformity. The shafts appeared intentionally shaped, their walls too smooth, too consistent, to be natural fault lines or collapsed wells. This was design, not coincidence. The team was stunned. Vertical structures of this depth and size beneath the pyramids were not just unexpected, they were unprecedented. But that wasn't all. The SAR data revealed something even more astonishing. Around the perimeter of several of these shafts were spiral-like formations, gently curling downward in an elegant, methodical motion. As the scans became more detailed, these formations began to resolve themselves into what could only be interpreted as spiral staircases, winding downward along the walls of the shafts like ancient corkscrews into the earth. This detail changed everything. Staircases suggest access. They imply intention, construction, use. The team speculated that these spirals may have once provided physical passage deep beneath the surface. Their scale, massive, broad, and uniform, suggested they weren't symbolic or decorative. These were built to be used, and the depth they reached implied a descent into something significant. If true, the mental image becomes almost cinematic. Ancient figures, perhaps priests, engineers, or initiates, making their way down those spiraling paths by torchlight, vanishing into the stone corridors of a subterranean world lost to memory. And then the chambers came into view. At the base of two of the shafts, the radar revealed structures unlike anything yet known on the plateau, cube-shaped chambers 80 meters wide on each side. These were not narrow corridors or crude caves. These were enormous rooms, constructed, perhaps, with mathematical precision. Each chamber was almost the size of a modern city block, perfectly square, with clear edges and consistent depth. It was, as the researchers described, as though someone had carved a geometric vault directly into the living bedrock. But for what? Theories flooded the research team as they examined the data. Such chambers could have held tombs. They could have served as massive ceremonial spaces, temples hidden from the world above. Or, in the most speculative interpretations, they could have been ancient libraries, vaults for something far more esoteric, sacred knowledge protected from war, decay, and even memory. As the scans continued, the discoveries deepened. In areas surrounding the main shafts and cube chambers, 5 additional structures began to take shape. These weren't isolated rooms. They were multi-level, overlapping, and interconnected through what appeared to be passageways and corridors. Some paths ran straight, others curved gently toward junction points. What emerged was a map, not of ruins, but of a layout, a system, a network. This was no random cluster of chambers. It was a dot, and from the layout alone, it appeared to have been meticulously planned. The proximity of these underground structures to the pyramids above wasn't accidental either. Several of the chambers aligned almost exactly with surface features, suggesting that whoever built above may have also built below. This wasn't just a hidden set of tunnels under the desert. It was an extension of the Giza complex itself. This led to one of the most compelling ideas of the entire investigation, that the Giza Plateau may have functioned as a 2-layered system, monuments and temples above, and a mirrored infrastructure below. If true, it would radically reframe our understanding of the site. The pyramids might not have been isolated tombs or standalone religious symbols, but part of a deeper, interconnected design, a surface visible to the world, and a hidden system known only to a select few. And this vast system of shafts, spiral staircases, chambers, and corridors might have been built to preserve something, or protect it. Perhaps it was functional. Perhaps it was spiritual. Perhaps it was something in between. What made the findings so gripping wasn't just the scale of what had been discovered. It was the silence that surrounded it. There were no records, no maps, no historical mentions. These structures, if they truly exist, as the scans suggest, had somehow evaded detection for thousands of years. Buried beneath one of the most studied archaeological sites on Earth, they had remained hidden until now. The researchers, careful in their statements, have not yet confirmed the material composition or age of the structures. That will require further study. But they have noted the stark, repeating geometry and deliberate alignment, which so far shows no signs of being natural formations. To those looking from the outside, the implications are staggering. A hidden world beneath Giza, massive in scale, deliberate in design, and completely undocumented in the historical record. The very idea challenges everything we thought we knew about the plateau. It raises more questions than answers. Who built it? When? Beneath the stone and silence, another element also stirred, one that wasn't solid, but fluid. As the SAR scans continued to unravel the layers beneath the Giza Plateau, the researchers began to notice something else, hidden not in the shape of walls or chambers, but in the pathways that ran between them. Subtle indentations, narrow channels, patterns that didn't fit the architecture of stairs or structural support. Instead, they resembled something else entirely: water systems. Running like invisible veins through the substructure, these linear forms appeared to trace the movement of water, either through carved channels or naturally sustained conduits adapted to purpose. Some followed the natural slope of the terrain. Others cut sharply through bedrock in ways that suggested intelligent design. These weren't scattered, random, or incidental. They appeared to link many of the key underground features: spiral staircases, the large cube chambers, and the multi-level structures, as though water once played a central, integrated role in whatever this hidden system had been. For archaeologists, the presence of water systems, especially beneath the desert sands, always raises eyebrows. In ancient Egypt, water wasn't just a life source. It was mythology, cosmology, and functionality rolled into one. The Nile was not merely a river. It was the axis of civilization, agriculture, commerce, and belief. And so, when signs of ancient water channels appear near a structure as important as the pyramids, they aren't ignored. The researchers hypothesize that this network of underground waterways may have been used to connect the subterranean spaces to the Nile itself, or to reservoirs that once existed closer to the plateau before climate and geography shifted. If true, these channels could have been part of a larger infrastructure, designed for the movement of building materials, food, ritual goods, or people. It's not a new idea. Some Egyptologists have long speculated that water transport may have played a crucial role in pyramid construction, easing the movement of massive stones from quarries to the building site. But this discovery pointed not just to the surface-level movement of cargo, but to a sustained, engineered water system beneath the ground itself. That alone would be remarkable. But beyond practicality, the symbolic weight of water in ancient Egyptian cosmology adds another layer to the mystery. In the ancient Egyptian creation myth, the universe began as a boundless, formless ocean of darkness, Nun, the primordial waters. From this chaos emerged the first mound of earth, and upon it, the god Atum created the first gods and set the world into motion. Water, then, wasn't just an element, it was the origin of all things. To return to the waters was to return to the void, to the beginning. If this really did incorporate water as a core feature, it's hard not to imagine a ceremonial role, ritual purification, symbolic rebirth, or even the simulation of an underworld journey. Perhaps initiates descended the spiral staircases, surrounded by the damp breath of ancient aquifers, passing through dark corridors that mimicked the mythical rivers of the Duat, the Egyptian realm of the dead. Perhaps these channels weren't meant to carry goods at all, but souls. Some of the channels appeared to terminate or pass near the base of the massive cube-shaped chambers. That proximity, and the deliberate planning it would have required, raises further speculation. Were these rooms temples, tombs? The researchers even noted that certain patterns in the SAR scans, especially in areas surrounding the shafts, suggested water erosion, or at least long-term interaction between stone and moving liquid. These weren't signs of sudden floods or damage, but of intentional channeling. Some cuts looked engineered, while others seemed adapted from natural formations, perhaps enhanced to match the needs of the time. There is also the question of acoustic design. In ancient underground sites around the world, like Malta's Hypogeum or the Oracle Chamber at Delphi, water and sound often play a mysterious role together. Certain chambers seem designed to resonate, amplify, or muffle specific frequencies, creating haunting effects that are neither accidental nor incidental. With water flowing, or having once flowed, one wonders, were acoustics considered here too? Did the movement of water create a natural hum or echo within the chambers above, enhancing the atmosphere of rituals, or giving rise to myths of the pyramids speaking? No one knows for certain. And then there's the practical. If people ever worked or lived down here, or if this network was maintained across years or centuries, then water access would have been essential. Even the simple matter of ventilation or temperature control could have been assisted by flowing water. In desert environments, Underground water often stabilizes ambient temperature, keeping spaces cooler during the day and warmer at night. The idea of an underground complex beneath Giza already challenges everything we thought we knew about this plateau. But the idea that this complex may have functioned through water, whether practically, symbolically, or ceremonially, adds an entirely new dimension to the story. The researchers have yet to confirm whether any of the water channels still contain traces of moisture or mineral sediment. But if future studies detect remnants of ancient flow, whether through soil sampling, isotopic analysis, or further imaging, it could open the door to testing the age of these channels independently of the structures themselves. That, in turn, could help establish a clearer timeline for when this subterranean network was built, or at least when it was last used. Water leaves behind memory, in layers of sediment, in mineral trails, in erosion marks on stone. If this system was used as claimed, then it may be one of the few surviving ways to trace the habits and intentions of its long-lost builders. The pyramids themselves have resisted precise dating for generations, but perhaps the clues beneath them, hidden in the veins of forgotten waterways, will tell a story the stones cannot. And so, beneath the familiar sand and stone of Giza, a new element now flows through the mystery. Water. Invisible. Silent. Once vital, now buried. Yet, even now, it may carry echoes of rituals, engineering, and belief systems we've only begun to imagine. What was its true role? Was it merely functional or foundational to something far older and far stranger than we've dared to believe? As the structural details of the subterranean network came into focus, shafts, chambers, corridors, and the unmistakable signs of intentional design, one idea began to echo louder than the rest. A theory long dismissed as legend, yet never entirely silenced. The suggestion that perhaps beneath these sands, researchers had stumbled upon the fringes of something ancient, elusive, and world-altering: the Hall of Records. According to various esoteric traditions, the Hall of Records is said to be a vast repository of ancient knowledge, an archive hidden deep beneath the Giza Plateau, containing the wisdom of lost civilizations. Some link it to Atlantis, others speak of it in religious or mystical terms. But across cultures and theories, the core idea remains the same: that a vault of forgotten history lies buried beneath the stone paws of the Sphinx, or beneath the pyramids themselves, when humanity is ready. This myth was notably popularized by American mystic Edgar Cayce, who in the early 20th century claimed that such a hall would one day be discovered near the Great Pyramid, housing detailed records of a pre-dynastic civilization that vanished before recorded time. Though historians and archaeologists have long distanced themselves from Cayce's visions, his predictions have never quite left the public imagination. And now, with the detection of these deep geometric structures, aligned with the monuments above and located precisely where legends say they might be, speculation has reawakened. Could these chambers, still unseen and unexplored, be more than just architectural anomalies? Could they hold scrolls, tablets, or knowledge systems long thought lost to myth? What makes this possibility so compelling isn't just the data, it's the context. These underground structures don't exist in isolation. Their size, symmetry, and proximity to one of the most symbolically loaded archaeological sites in the world give weight to the speculation, even as caution is urged. Whether these chambers are truly repositories of lost knowledge or something more mundane, their existence invites a profound shift in how we view the Giza Plateau. It suggests that we may have only scratched the surface of what was built here, and more importantly, why it was built. What allowed this revelation to surface wasn't a spade or shovel, but waves of energy pulsing through the earth. Synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, was the tool that made this glimpse possible. Unlike traditional ground-penetrating radar, which can be limited by depth and resolution, SAR offers the ability to map structures at greater depths and with higher detail. Mounted on satellites or aircraft, this technology sends radar pulses toward the Earth's surface, capturing the echoes that bounce back and compiling them into layered, high-resolution images. In the right conditions, SR can detect density anomalies far below ground, uncovering cavities, corridors, and voids that conventional methods might miss. In this case, SAR allowed researchers to scan an area thousands of meters across and hundreds of meters deep without disturbing a single grain of sand. It was a non-invasive, data-rich approach that respected the sacred and delicate nature of the site while pulling back the curtain on what lay beneath. What the radar revealed was astonishing in both detail and scale. The scans didn't just indicate the presence of empty space, they traced the shape of it. Clean lines, symmetry, connectivity, multiple features mirrored each other or fell into predictable geometrical layouts, something rarely found in nature. It was these patterns that set the findings apart, suggesting not natural caverns or accidental voids, but designed spaces, conceived and executed with intent. This method of seeing into the past without physically breaching it has become an essential part of modern archaeology, and here it served as a kind of time machine, letting us peer into a world buried for thousands of years without yet touching it. With each scan, the picture became more complex and more haunting. The idea of an underground city was no longer just theory or folklore. It was a layered reality, encoded in stone and shadow, waiting to be read. The shafts and spirals, the colossal chambers, the interwoven corridors, they began to form something greater than the sum of their parts. A blueprint, a design, a whisper from the past saying, "Look deeper." What struck researchers and observers alike was the intentionality. These weren't random cuts in rock or accidental collapses. They were deliberate, calculated, and arranged in a manner that hinted at a deep understanding of space, of energy, of symbolism. Beneath the pyramid complex, already one of the most geometrically sophisticated constructions on Earth, was a mirror world designed with equal care. For some, this felt like a kind of sacred inversion. The pyramids, rising sharply into the sky, reaching toward the gods, and beneath them, descending tunnels and chambers, dropping into the underworld, a balance, a duality. The ancient Egyptians often spoke of life and death, day and night, Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, as two halves of a whole. Perhaps the pyramid complex followed the same philosophy. What rose must also descend. As the radar continued to map this subterranean expanse, the visual data began to look like a blueprint for something that should not exist. Not at this scale, not at this depth, not at this level of architectural maturity, especially if it predates the known phases of dynastic construction. But the scans didn't lie. And with every pass, the story grew more intricate. It's here that the line between archaeology and imagination begins to blur, not in a reckless way, but in the way that all mysteries do when we stand at the edge of the known and peer into the unknown. The mind starts to fill the space. What was it used for? Who walked these halls? The recent claims of a vast underground city beneath the pyramids of Giza have ignited both intrigue and skepticism within the scientific community. While the initial findings suggest a complex subterranean network, many experts urge caution, emphasizing the need for rigorous validation before redefining our understanding of ancient Egyptian architecture and culture. Leading the critique is Dr. Zahi Hawass, a renowned Egyptian archaeologist and former minister of antiquities. He has dismissed the claims as fake news, asserting that the techniques employed lack scientific validity. Dr. Hawass emphasized that no official permits have been granted for such explorations, and no missions are currently operating inside the Khafra pyramid. He stated, "The rumors that have spread about the Egyptian pyramids have no basis in truth, and there is no scientific evidence to support this claim. The use of synthetic aperture radar, SAR, technology by the research team has also been scrutinized." Professor Lawrence Conyers, an expert in radar and archaeology from the University of Denver, expressed doubts about the feasibility of detecting such deep structures with radar pulses. He characterized the claims of a vast city beneath the pyramids as a huge exaggeration, suggesting that while smaller subsurface features might be detectable, the identification of extensive underground cities is beyond the current capabilities of radar technology. A significant point of contention is the absence of peer-reviewed publication of these findings. The scientific process relies heavily on peer review to validate research methodologies and conclusions. Without this critical evaluation, the broader academic community remains cautious about accepting the claims. The researchers, led by Professors Malanga and Biondi, have yet to present their data and interpretations for independent assessment, leading to further skepticism regarding the validity of their assertions. The notion of hidden chambers and eas beneath the Giza Plateau is not new. Over the years, various explorations have sought to uncover such mysteries. For instance, the Scan Pyramids project in 2017 utilized muon radiography to detect a large void within the Great Pyramid, later referred to as the Big Void. However, the purpose and significance of this cavity remain subjects of ongoing research and debate. Similarly, the legendary Hall of Records, purported to house ancient knowledge beneath the Sphinx or pyramids, has captivated the imagination of many. Despite numerous investigations, no concrete evidence has been found to substantiate its existence. The persistence of such legends underscores the need for empirical evidence before embracing new claims. While the allure of groundbreaking discoveries is undeniable, the scientific community emphasizes the importance of caution and methodological rigor. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. The current assertions about an underground city beneath the Giza pyramids, lacking peer-reviewed validation and facing significant methodological criticisms, highlight the necessity for thorough and transparent research practices. The debate surrounding the alleged beneath the Giza pyramids serves as a reminder of the complexities inherent in archaeological research. While technological advancements like SAR offer promising avenues for exploration, their limitations must be acknowledged. The scientific method demands not only innovation, but also validation through rigorous peer review and reproducibility. Until such standards are met, the claims of hidden cities beneath Egypt's ancient monuments remain speculative, warranting cautious consideration rather than definitive acceptance. The Giza Plateau, with its iconic pyramids and the enigmatic Sphinx, has long captivated scholars and enthusiasts alike. Despite extensive research and exploration, several aspects of these ancient structures remain shrouded in mystery. For this section of the video, we'll dive into some of the most intriguing, unsolved puzzles of the plateau, offering insights into the complexities and enigmas that continue to fuel curiosity and debate. Of all the spaces hidden within the Great Pyramid of Giza, none is more overlooked or more quietly perplexing than the subterranean chamber. Located deep beneath the base of the pyramid, this chamber is the lowest of the three main interior rooms, and also the most mysterious. While the King's Chamber and Queen's Chamber are known for their precise geometry, polished stone surfaces, and careful architectural design, the subterranean chamber is crude by comparison. It's rough-hewn, irregular, and unfinished, carved directly into the bedrock beneath the pyramid itself, as if it were abandoned halfway through construction or meant to remain in a raw primal state. For decades, archaeologists have debated its purpose. Was it an early attempt at a burial chamber, later abandoned as the pyramid's design evolved? That's one theory. Some believe the pyramid began with more modest plans, and that as construction advanced and ambitions grew, the intended tomb was relocated higher. In that reading, the subterranean chamber is simply a discarded relic of an early blueprint. But others aren't so sure. In ancient Egyptian cosmology, what lies beneath the earth was not just empty space. It was sacred. The underworld, or duat, was believed to exist beneath the surface, a realm of gods, judgment, and rebirth. Could the subterranean chamber, with its unadorned walls and hidden position, have served a more symbolic purpose? Some theorists have proposed more radical ideas, that the chamber was never meant for the dead, but for the living, a place of initiation, ritual, or isolation, where one entered the earth in silence, far removed from the world above, to encounter something sacred or secret. Others suggest it may not be a chamber at all, but a part of a larger system yet undiscovered, an entryway to rooms still hidden beneath the pyramid. The lack of definitive evidence makes the subterranean chamber one of the most frustrating puzzles of the Great Pyramid. But it's precisely that ambiguity, that sense of something left unresolved, that keeps the fascination alive. A chamber without a clear purpose, in a monument where everything else seems to follow mathematical and spiritual precision, stands out and invites speculation. And yet, as we've turned our gaze downward to study what lies beneath the pyramid, a more recent discovery has forced us to look up. In late 2017, a team of international scientists working with the Scan Pyramids project announced something unprecedented. A hidden cavity, sealed within the heart of the Great Pyramid, that had remained undetected for over 4,500 years. Using a technique called muon tomography, essentially a way of tracking subatomic particles as they pass through solid matter, the team was able to scan the pyramid's internal structure with a level of sensitivity no previous tool had achieved. What they found stunned the archaeological world. A massive void, at least 30 meters, roughly 100 feet, in length, positioned directly above the Grand Gallery. This wasn't an accidental air pocket or a minor gap in the stonework. The data indicated a real, measurable space, completely sealed, completely inaccessible, and previously unknown. Immediately, the questions began. Was this void an intentional part of the pyramid's design? If so, what purpose could it serve? The location of the void only deepened the mystery. The Grand Gallery is one of the most architecturally striking features of the Great Pyramid, a steep, narrow corridor that leads upward to the King's Chamber, lined with corbelled stone and steeped in precision. That a massive hidden cavity would sit directly above this feature and escape detection for so long was difficult to fathom. And yet, there it was, verified by 3 separate teams using independent scans. A chamber, or corridor, or space, hovering silently above one of the most studied passageways on Earth. Some researchers, cautious as ever, have suggested practical explanations. Perhaps it's just a structural necessity, a giant void to ease pressure on the gallery below. Others are more intrigued. They point to its scale, its symmetry, its isolation. No known entrance, no physical access. It was never meant to be seen, which of course raises the question, was it ever meant to be found? The Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities acknowledged the discovery, but stopped short of endorsing any single theory. No excavation has been approved, no drills, no cameras, no probes. For now, the void remains untouched. We know where it is. We know how big it is. But beyond that, it might as well be a secret carved into time itself. Just as the void above the Grand Gallery invites us to wonder what else remains hidden behind the familiar geometry of the Great Pyramid, another feature, one that's been visible for generations but remains just as mysterious, continues to puzzle researchers, a set of narrow angular channels carved deep into the heart of the monument. At first glance, they don't seem particularly remarkable. 4 narrow shafts, each no more than 8 inches wide, rise from the King's and Queen's chambers. The ones extending from the King's chamber reach the exterior of the pyramid. Those from the Queen's chamber, however, stop short, terminating in sealed stone blocks deep within the masonry. No exit, no apparent destination, just stone. When British explorer Wayman Dixon investigated the Queen's chamber shafts in 1872, he retrieved a few small artifacts, a copper hook, a stone ball, a bit of cedar wood. But beyond these, the shafts offered no clear explanation. Over a century later, modern robotic probes were sent inside. One famously found a tiny door-like block with copper fittings. Behind it another void, another block, another unknown. The prevailing theory is that these shafts were symbolic, aligned to specific stars like Sirius and Orion's belt, allowing the pharaoh's soul to ascend to the heavens after death. Their angle, about 45 degrees, supports this idea. In ancient Egyptian belief, Stars were not distant points of light, but gateways. These shafts may have been spiritual corridors, designed not for physical travel, but for a soul's journey to the afterlife. Others propose more practical uses. Early attempts at ventilation, perhaps, abandoned mid-construction. But there's little consensus. The Queen's chamber shafts, in particular, challenge the idea of ventilation, since they don't reach the outside. They seem designed not to circulate air, but to lead inward, or upward, or nowhere at all. Whatever their purpose, their precision is striking. Even the smallest features of the Great Pyramid were carved with intent. So when a passage is built to go somewhere, but stops, it's hard not to wonder what lies just beyond. And this fascination with what's missing or inaccessible leads us naturally to the most visible absence of all. Anyone who's ever stood before the Great Pyramid notices it immediately. Something's missing. The top of the monument is flat. Instead of tapering to a sharp point, as the structure once did, the final several meters are gone. For a monument built with such precision and care, the absence is conspicuous. The missing piece is known as the pyramidion, the capstone. In other pyramids, pyramidions were often small, highly polished stone blocks, sometimes gilded to reflect sunlight. They were symbolic and functional, representing the Benben stone, the mythical first mound of creation, the point where divine light first touched the earth. But the Great Pyramid's capstone, it's never been found. Some believe it was removed during antiquity, perhaps looted along with the outer casing stones that once made the pyramid shimmer white in the desert sun. Others think it may never have been installed, perhaps intentionally left incomplete as part of a symbolic design. One intriguing theory suggests the pyramid was designed as a type of initiatory monument, one that reflects the soul's ascent to the divine. The missing top could represent the spiritual unknown, the part of the journey that must be completed beyond the material world. In this reading, the pyramid isn't just a tomb, but a metaphor. A few more speculative theories link the capstone to ancient technology, or even lost knowledge, arguing that the pyramidion was made from a unique material and held some forgotten function. There's no hard evidence to support this, of course, but the mystery persists. Even efforts to reconstruct what it might have looked like are speculative. No records, no surviving fragments, just a flat, exposed peak and centuries of wonder. In a monument that has survived earthquakes, invasions, and empires, the missing top seems almost deliberate, as though what's not there is just as important as what is. And finally, we turn to a more recent discovery, one not hidden in stone, but in writing. A slab of inscribed granite, recovered in the 19th century, whose message may call the conventional timeline of Egypt's most famous monuments into question. Tucked away in a museum in Cairo, relatively unknown to the wider public, the inventory stela is a piece of dark granite inscribed with hieroglyphs discovered in the ruins of an ancient temple near the Sphinx. Its contents are straightforward enough. It lists a number of items donated by Pharaoh Khufu, builder of the Great Pyramid, to the Temple of Isis. But what it says about the Sphinx has made it one of the most controversial artifacts in Egyptology. The stela claims that Khufu did not build the Sphinx, but that he restored it. This single detail flips the traditional narrative on its head. According to the standard timeline, the Sphinx was commissioned by Khufu's son, Khafre, as part of his pyramid complex. That's what most Egyptologists still accept. But if the inventory stela is accurate, it implies that the Sphinx predates Khufu, possibly by centuries or more. This claim has been used by alternative researchers to argue for a much older Sphinx, perhaps dating back to a lost civilization before the known dynastic period. Some point to erosion patterns on the Sphinx enclosure, suggesting water damage inconsistent with Egypt's arid climate of the last 4,500 years. If the monument really is that old, the implications are massive. It would mean the origins of Egypt's most iconic site reach back into prehistory. Mainstream scholars, however, dismiss the inventory stela as a later forgery or a misdated inscription from the site period, roughly 600 BCE. They argue it was an attempt by priests to legitimize their temple by linking it to a revered pharaoh. Its language, they say, is too late. Its purpose too political. But here's the thing, it hasn't been definitively disproven either. No one has yet been able to say with absolute certainty when the Sphinx was carved. No inscription marks the date. No buried document explains the purpose. And so, the inventory stela remains, a quiet, dusty object on display, quietly challenging one of the most established historical narratives in the world. Whether it's a relic of truth or a clever piece of propaganda, it holds power, not just in what it says, but in what it implies. That beneath the stones of Giza, and within the writings of its descendants, echoes of a story far older than we imagined may still be waiting to be heard. And so, beneath the familiar sands of Giza, we've wandered through stories both new and ancient, from high-tech radar scans hinting at forgotten worlds to unfinished chambers, unreachable shafts, and missing stones. Each piece of the puzzle adds depth to a place already steeped in mystery. And whether these discoveries rewrite history or simply add to its complexity, one thing is certain. The Great Pyramid and the land around it are far from fully understood. Thanks for watching. And as always, until next time, stay curious.